Hello, friends. Welcome to this week's healthcare headlines. Tonight, we're going to be talking about the eyeball infections that people seem to be getting from eye drops. Then we're going to switch into Valentine's Day mode. Okay, I have some very nice stories about really yummy stuff related to Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's Day, by the way. We're not Valentine's Day people here. Just no, hard pass. Like, this is a lot of work and seems made up and fake. And I'm not at all romantic. So I was like, please pass. Let me know in the comments if you are a Valentine's human or if not. And if you are, what have you done to celebrate? I did nothing. Well, I went to Target, which is also kind of my love language. So there's that. We're going to be talking about some, gross things related to Valentine's Day. And also, we will talk about what else do we have on the list? Norovirus, some barfs and diarrhea, yum yums, starting out strong, updates on the nursing scandal. And then we'll try to end with some good news. So that's what we have on this docket today. Nothing hardcore. I was very happy. I feel like nothing crazy happened in the world this week. And I was like, I needed that, especially with today. Today is weird. If you guys know, well, you might not know this, but if I went to Michigan State, and then they had that awful shooting situation last night. And that's like thrown me off. I feel like I look like the day that I have had, if that makes sense. You can let me know. We'll do our mental health check-in. Where are we on our scales of 1 to 10? I look like I've had the day that I've had, because that's very sad. It throws you off. That feels very close to home. I just got home from a business trip. So I'm also like entering my week. I got home like super late Sunday night, and I had no time before, like, obviously, like, Monday just started. So I'm like thrown into the week. I'm like, I haven't had like a day off in 12 years, and I don't know where am I? What time zone am I in? And then I had like weird, like, sad news in my personal life. I'm just like, where am I, and what is happening? So that's we're having a weird day. Montana gal, thanks. I appreciate you. That's the support we need here for my little corner of the internet. I appreciate you. Ed Kempt is not a Valentine's Day person. I can send myself flowers. There we go. I am also, no, I don't know. If you're going to give me anything, have it be chocolate, but I would also just really appreciate, like, I don't know. I'm very much a works of, what is it, like, your love language? I want people to just do things for me. So that would be my best Valentine's Day gift. But here we are. Happy Valentine's Day to you. And if not, I'm right there with you if you want to do that. Okay, let's look and see what we've got. John Hersuk said, feel that my nursing school just got off a 2-week strike and now my clinical this week is canceled. Yikers. That does make things complicated, right? I hope they got what they wanted, though, in their nursing strike, and that they have better situations and therefore will be nicer to you, because it's hard to be a nursing student on a unit where people are like stressed out the gills and they don't even want to look at you. It's not a good opportunity for learning, right? I hope they fixed it a little. All right, friends. Eyeball infections. Have you guys heard of the eyeball infections that are plaguing the world? Eyeball things? I don't like eyeball things. Eyeball things were never, when I saw that on my list of like things of my patients coming in, and it was like eye things, I was like, oh, no. And I'm sure other people do this. Don't Google what this looks like. Okay. We're going to talk about the illness that is associated with. Don't do it. Unless you want a terrible time. It looks real nasty. Artificial tears, a brand called Ezracare. They look like these. So if you have these in your house, maybe just throw them away. Okay. It's the artificial tears version, for like lubricating eye drops in case you have like red, scratchy, itchy eyeballs. These aren't it, friends. 55 people in 12 states have used these drops and have gotten permanent vision loss as a result of corneal infections. And one person died where the infection spread into the bloodstream. Montana Gal said, where are they made? And this batch is from India, I believe. I have it somewhere else to confirm, but I believe they were from India. And so don't use these, okay? Don't use this brand. You can still use other brands, and we will go over best practices for how to use eye drops in a moment, because, why not? We'll do that. But these were not good, and they didn't just get their eyeballs like infected. They got them like super infected, which is never good. So it ended up being a bacteria infection, and it called Pseudomonas aeruginosa. That's probably not the complete correct way to say it, but that's what it was. And it was highly drug resistant. So you know how we have like super gonorrhea and all the other things that we now have that are popping up and like and nothing is cured by anything. Well, now it's in your eyeballs. Okay, so bad news bears. And basically it's a bacterial infection that cannot be cured by most antibiotics that we have and now it can be in your eyeballs. So, yuck. If you're worried you might have this, symptoms are going to be, hey, you used these and then your eyeballs like red and it's like pussy and green and inflamed and it hurts and you just want to claw your eyeball out. The thing I feel bad for here is obviously these people, right? This is yikers, yikers. The thing I feel really bad though for is my friends in primary care who are going to, I imagine this has been going all over, right? I found all these, for these Tuesday night things, we usually just pull articles that are like trending that have to do with health. So I imagine a lot of people have seen this. Let me know if you've seen this on like your TikTok. This was all over mine. I feel like primary care is just going to get a bunch of these phone calls and being like, I have the eyeball disease. And I just feel bad because everything having to do with your eye gives you these exact symptoms, right? I'm sensitive to light. My eyeball really hurts. It feels like I want to scratch it out of my head. It's kind of swollen. It's red. Like there's goop coming out of it. There's a lot of things that grow on with your eyeball and all of those are the symptoms. So I feel bad because now they're going to like have the whole world. Every time like things like this happen, then everyone contacts you and you're like, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, friends. we don't all have this awful Pseudomonas infection in our eyeball unless you use the eye drops, and then you very much might. So here's the list that they want you to watch out for. Okay. Discharge from the eye pain or discomfort, redness of the eye or eyelid, feeling like something is in your eyeball, increased sensitivity to light, and blurry vision. Okay. Again, if you have those, please do call your healthcare provider. That is not normal. And yikes, you might have these eye drop issues. No need to avoid other eye drop issues they would like you to know, or other eye drops. If you would like to try out other artificial tears, that is totally fine. One's artificial tears, in general, this one's not when you get into like the steroid versions, then I usually say like go for the non-necessary brand name things. Most things I'm like all about brand name, right? If we can get a generic or non-brand name, if we can get in with a generic, perfection. Eye drops, however, when they're just like tears like this one, when they're like in any way medicated, fun fact, eye drops are the one place where you might want to get the actual real deal versus just getting like the Walmart knockoff brand. And I learned that from a ophthalmologist, right? The ophthalmologists, yes, optometrists are like your eye doctor when you get your vision checked. Ophthalmologist, I had to go see one, and they were like telling me, and I had no idea. I was like, oh, thank you. I'll take notes and take it back to primary care. So fun fact, but for regular old artificial tears, you go use whatever you want except for this brand. I think they pulled them all from the shelves. So I imagine you can't get this brand, but you never know. Only users of Ezracare and Delsum Pharma artificial tears, both manufactured in India. Okay, good. My memory was right there. I was like, I think they were from India. Should be concerned due to recent recall. But before putting eye drops in, everyone should double check that the bottle's label is correct and they aren't recalled and they aren't expired, right? Especially with artificial tears, make sure they're not expired. I am just as guilty as the next human of when my medicine says something and it's like, oh, this is expired. I'm like, what does our expired really mean? Like, how are we really losing efficacy or what is happening here? Artificial tears are a weird one because they don't have preservatives in them because it's literally just trying to lubricate. So when things don't have preservatives, they can get yuckier quicker. Okay. So unlike our mysterious medicine bottle that just contains all sorts of goodness that's not necessarily labeled, and we're like, I'm sure it's fine. Artificial tears, no, friends. When they're expired, toss them because you might have like a super bug of Pseudomonas in it and you could go blind, which we don't want. Other things that are going to help your eyeballs stay healthy when you're using eye drops, right, is keep don't touch it to your actual eyeball, okay? If you have trouble getting eye drops in your eye, fun fact, this is just turning into like eyeball fun facts. You can actually apply eye drops if you're laying, like your head is back, when your eye is closed. And then if you blink open, it'll get the eye drop into your eye. but you have to be laying down though. Okay. So don't touch the medicine to your eyeball. That's icky. Make sure you like wash your hands before you do it and clean off. I even was like neurotic and I would like clean, if I have to use eye drops, clean the tops off. Yucks, right? This eyeball things, like I said, gross. I don't like it. I do not like it at all. I'm with Nursing Journey. I do not like things in my eye. It sounds like a like a what's it like Dr. Seuss post. I do not like things in my eye. I do not like them at all, let alone putting eye drops in my eye. Yeah, try the eyes closed trick though. That works excellently. That's how we did it in peds to get kids because there's no way if you go to a child, they're like, oh, put the eye drops in the eye. I'm like, they're not going to hold their eye open. Are you kidding? Eyes closed. Got it. How expired are we talking? Only for this one thing, right? Okay, then we don't want expired. For all else, really go for it. Eventually, aspirin loses its potency. Who really takes aspirin anymore? Everything else, I'm like, I'm sure this is fine. I'm sure it's fine. Everything's fine. So there we go. Eye drops. Yikes. We don't love that. If you are up for a very boring read, you can read this. It is the outbreak, the CDC's summary of data, outbreak of extensively drug resistant. Those are the words we need to have now. Oh yeah. And Adrian has a good point. Nurse Adrian, never share eye drops. Yes. This is like never share mascara. You can share all the other things, lots of other things, but don't share eyeball things. Don't share contacts. Take your contacts out, right? Like just do the things. I'm not a rule follower either. If there's a healthcare rule out there in terms of like my own body, not other people's, I'm like, I'll break it. How can we break this? Not with eyeballs, friends. Not with eyeballs. Okay. We don't like to do that. But yeah, if you want to read something that's kind of boring, it goes through this and it goes through more about like where they, tracked the different things, all the different orifices that they swabbed these poor people because it entered through their eye and it exited through a whole bunch of other holes in their body somehow. Some of them got sepsis from it, which is very bad. Gives you all of the exact antibiotic, all these the beta laxidase, Guyana extended spectrum, like all those things. If you want to read about that, if you're like super into the data, all the states that the artificial tears were, here's where all the isolates were found. They were found in the lungs, in the cornea, in the urine, other non-sterile sources. What an interesting way to label that. I wonder what that is. Blood and rectal swabs. So yikes. Be careful with the eyeball things. This is keratitis. So this is what most people are actually getting with this. This is the thing that we'll just talk about. You don't even want to Google it. It's yucky. It's very painful. We don't like it. No, we don't appreciate it. It hurts. I have had quite the eyeball infection before. So I'm very hate it. Just hate it. Don't like it even a little. So that's where we are with that. Now. So if anyone, I don't have really anything else to say. Like, I don't think this is going to be a terribly long stream tonight. Because like I said, nothing crazy is happening. I was pleased that the wildest thing that was on our horizon were weird eyeball bacteria. And I hope those people feel better because that sounds miserable. Now, as it is Valentine's Day, I felt that we needed some very fun Valentine's Day facts. Okay. And by that, they're not very fun and they're kind of gross. Okay. So buckle up. How many of you enjoy hot tubs? You might never again. Watch this. I don't like hot tubs. They make me too hot. And then I can't get like comfortable. Like I'm too hot and then I'm sweating. But then I want to get back in, like it feels good, nice, but I want to get back in and then I get cold, right? Cause then you hop out and only half of you and it's just not fun. And they kind of have always grossed me out. And this has reaffirmed my fear of hot tubs. Okay. Hot tubs are filled with things too horrifying to mention, scientists say. Perfect. Let's do this. Hot tubs, according to new research, are exactly as gross as you've always been warned. And in fact, maybe even more horrifying than you imagine. Excellent intro to an article, by the way. I was like, how to write a good hook. Like I'm drawn in immediately and I'm here for it. Maybe even more horrifying than you imagine. Yeah, Irene, I'm with you. I'm way too grossed out by hot tubs. You might be too. Let me know if you are grossed out by hot tubs. Do we have any hot tub people? My husband loves hot tubs. Like anytime we are ever anywhere with a hot tub, he's like, does it like anywhere with a pool? He's like, does it have a hot tub? Loves it. Loves it. No, no. Gross. Oh, gross, gross. Mr. Midwife, equally grossed out. My people, Montana gal, grossed out. We'll probably have a lot of grossed out. My friends, my best friend growing up, they had a hot tub. That's probably why I'm so grossed out by them, because I don't think it was probably maintained properly. But the things that the slime, I don't know, it was just gross. We don't approve. So let's see what can actually grow in it. So when you enter the water of a jacuzzi, whatever we have on our skin, we deposit into the water. The warm swirling, and it swirls around us. This includes 100 milligrams or so of feces that is usually present between your buttocks cheeks, in case you needed to know. So in case you were going to go have a romantic evening in a hot tub tonight, just ponder that, okay? Just ponder it. That means while you're relaxing in the warm water, you'll likely breathe in or swallow your jacuzzi partner's body bacteria, virus, or fungi. No. Absolutely no. Absolutely not. If you have a properly maintained private jacuzzi, it is probably not so gross, right? I feel like they also always smell like a ton of chemical, what is it? Chlorine. So this might be fine. But of course, I wasn't going to find an article. I also thought to myself, I was like, Liz, you could probably find an article that shows that maybe hot tubs are actually fine. I was like, no, that's not going with the vibe of today. That's not. Improperly maintained public jacuzzis can lead to outbreaks of infections by human-associated bacteria, which survive well in water, which is true. Bacteria do love, right? Warm and cozy and moist. Okay. So their personal heaven. Or also like around the jacuzzi, right? That's also an equally gross area, just for your thinking in the future, because, right, it's not even like drowned if it's not totally wet. It's just moist. Just think about it. And she continued, noting that everything from E. coli, that's like, from your poop, and MRSA, causing Staphylococcus aureus. Staphylococcus, or MRSA, is the methicillin resistant, so the antibiotic resistant bugs, right? That's also our theme of the day, is everything is now antibiotic resistant. And, don't know what we're going to do about that, but that's a later else problem. We're not going to worry about it today. And it also causes, have you heard of this? Legionnaires disease, which is Legionella pneumonia, the germ behind Legionnaires disease. I feel like every good TV show, okay, people die by Legionnaires disease, right? The girl, you end up finding her and she's like dead somewhere. And then they're like, oh my gosh, like what could this possibly be? Like this, I feel like House used this multiple times, and you end up finding they were like, oh, but she was in the, like by the water tower. And then she actually got Legionnaire disease from the water tower. So this is the water one. Okay. That every show uses. This is it. This is what it gives you. Really bad version of pneumonia that is icky and is quite antibiotic resistant usually. Legionella bacteria are particularly found in water droplets within the jacuzzi system, the microbiologist continued. And inhaling the contaminated steam could lead to the development of life-threatening pneumonia. I have taken care of people who have had Legionnaire's disease. It was not pretty. And then because this article is epic, I was just like appreciating the person who wrote this. The message is pretty clear. If you must soak, I was like, you can't say soak now. Come on. Have you not been on TikTok in the last year? Do so in a private hot tub or risk literally contracting a disease. Good luck with that. Everyone who was hoping to have a romantic evening, maybe go soaking in a hot tub. Just ponder that. Okay. Just ponder it. Adrian, I need to see the source on this so I can share with my 2 community centers. I don't even want to go to the community, like think about what it's like at a community center. I have information. I don't even know if they linked. I copied this one because it just seemed fun. This Neoscoped, that does not sound very legit, but they had cool colors. So it brought me in. Exactly. Mormon soaking was exactly what I was referring to. But here is an article, and I've already linked it down below, on Legionnaire's disease, in case you are curious about the what the bacteria kind of is, what the symptoms are, your normal pneumonia type of things, fever, chills, I can't eat, I can't get out of bed, I can't breathe, and this goes into how the infection spreads. The number one way it spreads is hot tubs and whirlpools. You can usually aspirate it, so either through the mist or by drinking the pool water, like my children always insist on doing. And then the complications of it. So, Adrian, maybe you could send this to them, but I don't think they're probably going to get rid of their hot tubs. But this is why I have a healthy fear, a healthy fear of, public swimming places like this where the water is warm because yuck. Because yuck. Flora says, nope, no way I'm sitting in a soup of other people's DNA. I'm here with you. I don't even want to sit in my own, like I don't do baths. Can you guys do baths? I think if you have a clean tub, right? A bath is probably, it's not bad for you. Like you're probably floating in your poop just like you are in a hot tub, but I don't think you're going to get like Legionnaires disease from it. But I can't even do a bath because I'm like, I don't even want to sit in whatever I'm in. Like, please no, please. It's not a fun feeling. I have the same, I'm hot, I'm not. I can't really like, if I touch my face, then all of a sudden my face is wet and now like my hand's wet. So now what am I going to do with my hand? And I can't touch anything. Like, no, not relaxing. 10 out of 10. Awesome. Awful. Don't recommend. Natalie D said there was a graduate student who died of Legionnaires locally. That's so sad. They got it from a damp basement apartment. That is sad. Oh, not fun. Montana Gal says showers run down equals good. Yes. Also black mold equals hard pass. Absolutely. Hard pass. No, thank you. We do not appreciate it. Not even a little bit. Okay. Well, if that wasn't enough, this one's less gross, more interesting, if you will. Also about kind of Valentine's Day thing. Have you guys heard of, I want to make sure I'm pronouncing it right, Takotsubo syndrome, which is also called broken heart syndrome. This is something I have had patients with this. We need an ad blocker. This nice woman is trying to tell us about something. Can you die from a broken heart? The potentially fatal effect of heartbreak. I have had patients actually with this, inpatient and outpatient. So this is literally where you can go into cardiomyopathy, like have heart failure in your left side of your heart that does like the biggest part of the pumping starts to fail due to stress related to like emotional stress. So it's like you can literally die from a broken heart. This happened to my own grandma. So my grandpa died of a heart attack, and on the day of his funeral, a few days later, my grandma died of basically what they decided was this. They were like, she was so stressed about it that it then weakened her heart and she passed away. It is more common in women. We'll see. It's very interesting and says a lot for like the importance of your mental health, right? Oh, thanks. Yeah, it was a very long time ago. I was in my freshman year of college. It was very sad at the time. In retrospect, it ended up being one of those things where you're kind of like, almost not glad, but like if you were going to pass away, doing it in your sleep, which is what happened to her, and not unlike her and my grandpa had been married forever and ever and ever. And that's almost like the way you want, like there was it wasn't something else that could have taken a long time. Very, very sad, but I was glad for her almost that she didn't have to. It was going to be very hard. You know what I mean? Sometimes people are just like they've lived to get like their whole life, and it's going to be very hard when one of them passes. So that in her case was almost like kind, So yes, can you die from a broken heart? Yes. Suffering from a broken heart is a real dangerous condition that many Americans deal with for periods of weeks or months. Some may experience Takotsubo syndrome, also known as broken heart syndrome, which is one of the key areas of this person's research. Sally has seen it many times. Takotsubo cardiomyopathy. Yes. Not ideal. Takotsubo syndrome is a temporary heart condition, often brought on by mental or physical stressful events such as the death of a loved one. According to Reynolds Clinic, it takes up about 1% of acute coronary syndromes, so big problems with your heart, and can often be indistinguishable from a heart attack, making like the assessment of it and everything very important. You'd want to do that quick. It's a sudden weakening of the heart muscles and likely occurs because the autonomic nervous system is out of balance. So, like that underlying thing that kind of reacts to stress. The cause may be physical or emotional stress, but she sees cases with an unidentifiable stressor about a third of the time. So that's when people are just like stressed, but they don't know why. It's not something that happens immediately. Sometimes it'll be like, oh, later on, a week. Stress isn't always immediate, right? So it can be like a little bit after the fact. Takotsubo syndrome, 90% of affected patients, I thought this was interesting, are postmenopausal women in who have been previously diagnosed with mood disorders or brain diseases, including strokes. So I thought that was interesting. NYU's Langan trial are attempting to intervene. They're trying to find ways to intervene through things like exercise, yoga, meditation, which is known to improve parasympathetic relaxation to try to like fight it, and function by deep breathing, all of which are great. But I don't know if it's actually gonna, I like those things, but I'm not sure they're going to solve everything. Here's our more scientific article on it. I linked both of them down below if you want to look at it. It was named, I thought this was fascinating, for an octopus trap. So Takotsubo is the word for an octopus trap. That sounds Japanese to me, but I could be wrong. And yeah, very, very interesting. Interesting too that it's reported more in women. I wonder if because it's most of the time you see almost like, I wonder what that has to do with the mortality of it, because often in the life, if you have a man and a woman that are married and the woman dies, the dude does not do well, right? Typically, if a man and a woman are married and the guy dies, the woman does better and can live a very long and normal life, but statistically, the men are more likely, if their wife dies, to die quicker. So I thought this was interesting that this is the opposite, that this seems to occur more in women. I don't know if it's underreported in men. I don't know. Headcamp says, Happy Valentine's Day. Fun fact that do you know that a broken heart can literally be deadly? This is what you came here for, right? Be like, hi, welcome. Don't get in the hot tub. It's filled with poop. Actually, don't fall in love. Because if it goes poorly, you could literally die of cardiomyopathy. Let's just ignore this holiday, okay? It is dangerous. It is a public health crisis. We do not want it. Single people live forever. There we go. There we go. Natalie says, I have Prince mentals. Oh my gosh, my mouth won't work today. And severe stress and sadness and being scared can make my coronary artery spasms and blood flow to my heart. Fun fact. Oh, I'm sorry you have to deal with that. But that is interesting in like a way, like a medical way. That is interesting. Interesting. Single for life. Yeah. So, I mean, I believe it. I think like the amount of ways that your emotions are tied into your just like health in general, I don't doubt it for like 1 second that all of that would super duper affect it. Research suggests that, I thought this was interesting too. Research suggests that up to 5% of women suspected of having a heart attack actually have this versus a heart attack. Most people recover with no long-term heart damage. So that's good. So even if you are risky and you demand to fall in love and celebrate this holiday, you'll probably be okay. These are the features of it: chest pain and shortness of breath after severe stress, emotional or physical, electrocardiogram abnormalities that mimic those of a heart attack. So if you go and you have the EKG, all the squiggles, they're going to show you like, oh, you might be having a heart attack. No evidence of coronary artery obstruction though. So you would go in and they would be like, oh, but like your heart looks like it's having a heart attack, but there is no blockage of the blood to the heart, right? A heart attack is when you are not having blood flow to a part of your heart, but there's no lack of they can't find it. So that's interesting. Movement abnormalities in the left ventricle. So that's basically what we described earlier, where the left side of your heart is the big muscle pusher. And that's going to get all the blood out of the heart. And it decides it's not going to behave. Usually it decides that maybe because it ran out, like it got cut off from oxygen supply, or your heart got swollen or like something else happened to it. Don't really know why here. Ballooning of the left ventricle, that would do it if it gets all floppy, and usually recover within a month, unless you die. Just saying. Just saying. What is it? Takotsubo cardiomyopathy is a weakening of the left ventricle, the heart's main pumping chamber, usually a result of physical stress. Stress-induced cardiomyopathy or broken heart syndrome. The main symptoms are chest pain and shortness of breath, as with like literally everything else. Literally everything else. No standard treatment for broken heart syndrome. It depends on the severity of symptoms, whether the person has low blood pressure or evidence of fluid building back in the lungs. It sounds like they just are trying to do supportive treatment. Yoga, deep breathing, and that. Trying to support it. Irene says, that is interesting. My mom passed away 3 months after my father. Oh, Irene, I'm sorry. We all said her heart was broken or she gave up. I'm sorry that happened. I hope it was peaceful for her and something kind of like with my grandma. Like, I really think there is something in like sometimes that it's just less painful, for a lot of people if they're done. And this is the other thing that's interesting for me is like, because a lot of people do pass away after their partner. There really is a huge mental component of staying alive. You know what I mean? Like when people hit that point where they're like, I'm just kind of done. A lot of times their body is like, okay, we're done. The mental component of all of this is huge. Absolutely huge. That's definitely another phenomenon is like older couples dying close together. Like, cause it really is. It's recorded, well documented that, if you've been together with someone for a long time, a lot of times you do end up passing away very close together. Cause I think your brain is just kind of like, here's another good Valentine's Day proverb for you. Love is hard to distinguish from mental illness. Google it. Perfect. I would believe that. Am I going crazy? Or what is this? I can see. I can see. Oh, I'm glad it was peaceful. Yep. When they decide let go, they go, yep. I've seen that many, many, many times. So we have it. Love is a mental illness. Crazy. Yeah. Love can make you do all sorts of the things, right? You definitely do not think clearly. Adrian, it could be the name of your book one day. Love is a mental illness. A memoir by Nurse Adrian. Oh, that would be awesome. Oh, that would be awesome. Naya the nurse, the eye drops were a artificial tears from a company called Ezra or something like that. If you go back and watch it, it's just like one brand. Ezra artificial tears. They've recalled all of them, so you should not be able to get them. Just be careful with your eyeballs, okay? That's a great t-shirt idea. Oh, that is a great t-shirt idea. Love is a mental illness. I need to write that down. Please hold. Love is a mental illness. Scott's probably already on it. He's like, I already have my it's already up. By the time this stream is over, Scott will have a t-shirt. He's so much more on top of it than me, as in I don't have any. I don't merch. Love is a mental illness. But that does make me smile. That does make me smile. Okay, where are we? I'm busy Googling. Please do. Please do. Tell us what you find. Okay, so this was I love my wife by Mr. Midwife, $24.99 at any bookstore. Okay, so this was interesting. It ended up getting overturned and changed, but I saw a lot of incorrect information about this topic, or just maybe not full information. So I thought we would talk about it. The Florida, are we on the right one? Nope, we're not yet. Recently, like the Florida high school athletes would like, apparently they had sent out a form before they could participate in sports in high school. And they were asking you a bunch of information about your period, if you were someone who had periods. And this was Interesting. Not great. Obviously, we don't want to ask a bunch of personal healthcare information. But I thought I would explain why they were probably actually asking this. Do I think they should have asked it? No, that's a really weird thing to like ask to put on this form. Should it be asked in general with at a like at a sports physical? Yes, and we'll talk about why. So the Florida High School Athletic Association Board of Directors had voted 14-2 to remove questions about a high school athlete's menstrual history from a required health form for participating in high school athletics. So this had come out, and a lot of people were really that's weird. Like, you're turning this into a school. Like, why do you need to know that? There was a lot of concern floating around of, are they asking this because of wanting to see like about pregnancy and just getting information about this, in case they were like, anything related to like reproductive health, right? They're like, are you trying to control this or that? I think the reason they did it was not to gain information about that necessarily, right? But because, not saying this is right, I'm just trying to say, like, I think this is where they were coming from, because a lot of people were saying, like, oh, like this was just so out of, they were only doing this because they were trying to, get information about people who like maybe were pregnant or something like that. I think they looked at it and they probably said, if you are someone who has a period, that period can tell you a lot about your health in general, right? Like if you are not giving yourself enough nutrition, if you are too stressed, and like a lot of times when we see athletes who are like super duper at the top of their performance, where they're like, if you're an Olympian, most of the time you don't get your period because your body realizes like clearly we are training all day. This is not a good time to have a baby. So we're just going to opt out. But it can also be a sign of like you don't have adequate nutrition if you're not giving your body what it needs, enough sleep, enough rest, not enough stress. So that is something that if you were talking to your healthcare provider, not your school, that you would ask, right? So when I did sports physicals and it was someone who could have a period, I would ask them about it. And sports physicals, just what they would come and ask, like get you cleared so you could play sports. And that was a question I always asked, right, of them. And if they to see like, hey, let's use this as a piece, not the whole thing, right? Of your health. Like we aren't going to, this is a piece of information we're using. And it could just be a source of conversation. Usually, I saw if people were in like cross country sometimes, or soccer was another one, gymnasts I saw a lot, and they would tend to like end up not like losing their period because their body was like, it felt like it was like training for, like a crazy hard war. But that was something we had a conversation about, and we could just talk about it and be like, hey, I just want to make sure you're eating enough food, you're sleeping enough, you are fueling your body, and that it's not because you aren't eating enough, you aren't doing anything like helping your body have enough nutrition. Because, right, we also see this with people who are really sick. Anyone with disordered eating habits, they will also lose their period, right? And so you just wanted to make sure that you knew what was happening, that they were aware of the situation, and that it was something you were kind of like watching. However, that was a conversation between like me and them. And I wasn't putting it on a form, right? It was just a conversation we had that shouldn't be on a healthcare form. That's weird, right? That is not something that people need to know in terms of a school. So that's super creepy. I'm very glad that they took that away. But that is why they were asking, I think. That is probably why. Should they have done that? Absolutely not. I've never seen that on a physical form, right? Usually the school sends you a form when you're doing a sports physical. I've done a bunch of them, and it just asks you like, do you have, it didn't give you a comprehensive list of all these things it wanted you to ask, right? The forms that I filled out went through, it would say like head, like musculoskeletal. So like, do they have any issues with that you're concerned about? And you would just check yes or no. And then if they had something abnormal, like that you were worried about, you would then describe it later. But it didn't ask you questions like it didn't go through questions like this. Like this all looks like no, hard pass. In this, I would never even write that on a sports physical, like even if that was something the person and I had discussed and they were like, oh yeah, like my periods are all out of whack. if I wasn't concerned, like we dug a little bit deeper into it and I was like, oh, okay, you're probably just not having your period, because you're like training like an Olympian. That's fine. We aren't even going to write it on there. Right. So this is weird. We don't like it. I'm glad they deleted it. Way too personal. I agree. Way too personal. That's not information that I would like absolutely anyone else to have. So I'm glad they ended up removing it. Real weird. Real weird. I don't know if they were having like, I don't know why they would think to put that on there, but that I think is the reason. I genuinely, I don't know. I would hope to refuse to believe that they would be collecting that data to see like, about like, are you pregnant? Could you be pregnant? That was kind of what the thing was on there. Like, I don't think it was probably that. I think it was them being inappropriately nosy for some reason on that, and we hate it, and it got overturned, and we're pleased, because don't ever give out healthcare information like that, friends. If you ever see forms, if you see something and it's asking you a question that rings like a bell in your head that's like, this seems like a conversation I should only have with a healthcare provider, and maybe I don't want to turn into a form on the internet, follow that. Okay. Or show it to your parents and ask them, and then you can refuse. Okay. You can refuse, because this is Jex. Adrian said, yeah, female runners often have amenorrhea. Amenorrhea is a lack of a period due to a drop in body fat. Yes. Yeah, that's between you and your provider. None of the school's business. Absolutely. Secondary amenorrhea due to body fat. Secondary here. So just a fun medical fact. Secondary just means we know the causes to something else. Primary would be, this is the issue and we don't know what's causing it. So in case you ever hear people talking like that, that is what it means. Secondary means it's related to something else, like being a super hardcore athlete, low body fat. Please do chest compressions on the like button and subscribe. Yes, do chest compressions on the like button, but an odd number of times. It's the only way to save the video. In even times, nothing happens. Nothing happens. Yeah. The body's like, we're super active. We must be fighting for our lives. Ain't got time for resources for that. Yes. Exactly. That's exactly how I described it to my patients. I'm like, your body is like, no, we are much too busy here. Let's not do that. Adrian said, somehow my chunky shot put her weightlifting body never got that hormonal reprieve. My band body never did either. Okay. It did not recognize me as the hardcore athlete that I was, frolicking around on that field with my flute. It was like, meh, no. No. Yeah, huge violation of privacy. We don't appreciate you. Don't appreciate you. No. The section is optional. I wonder how many people actually filled it out. Hopefully none. I'm glad it was optional. Like I said, if it seems weird, don't fill it out. Okay. They did switch it out with other language that kind of sucks, where they asked you before on the form, it just said sex, and this one said sex assigned at birth, but it's, Florida is Florida. We're not shocked. We don't love that when they switched out the form, they were like, let's just sneak that right in there. Don't love that. The Florida High School Athletic Association says they've based the new form on the recommendations from a group of like the American Academy of Pediatrics. Officials with the FHSSA, they did not want to comment, though. They were not wanting to explain why they made this little change, but hopefully the American Academy of Pediatrics was like, let's have that be a conversation between them and us and not you and them. Okay. Super, super solid. They read during this meeting the public's comments, which apparently were not very kind, and they were overwhelmingly opposed to requiring athletes to report those details to school athletic officials, as they should be, citing privacy concerns. Yeah. No, thank you. Important information, but something that you don't need to have with your school. No. Yeah, it can be a huge red flag for different things like disordered eating. It can mean a lot of things, right? But again, that's a conversation between you and your healthcare provider to sort that out, not you and your soccer coach. That's weird. Yeah, I get to ask that question. You don't. That's mine. Back away. And yeah, if you, fun fact, if you are someone who should get a period and you're not getting a period, and it's been more than 3 months, go see someone like Mr. Midwife and you can talk about it and he can ask you questions. And your school doesn't have to ask you questions because you should be getting them fairly regularly. More than 3 months is kind of the marker of when we say, I'd like to talk to you about that. There's lots of other things that can be causing you to not have a period. You can have PCOS. You can be super duper stressed. There's all sorts of things, right? And it's something, 3 months is usually considered the amount that we would like your uterine lining to fluff up before it sheds and goes away. So go and talk to someone about that. I found that many people did not know that when I worked in primary care. They're like, really? 3 months at all? Like mine's always been wackier than that. I'm like, yeah, 3 months, my friends. If you are not on combined hormonal contraception, you don't have an IUD or something else that will, mess with the way you get your period. Because then in that case, if you have anything with like combined hormonal contraception, you don't really build up a lining of your uterus. Fun fact also. And you might not have to get one at all. It can be a delight. Mirena for the win. We love a good IUD. Oh dear, my screen I hit a weird button on my mouse. We came back though, so we're fine. T-shirts are ready. Here we go. Everyone go to this website. There you go. Scott's got you. And you'll usually start, thanks, Chad, with if this is you and you have questions about, why am I not getting a period? I feel like I should. It's been more than 3 months. Usually you just start with something like blood work, make sure that's fine, and an ultrasound to make sure that your plumbing, right, the plumbing is doing what it should. There's no fibroids. Things can leave if they need to leave. They aren't stuck anywhere. All of that good stuff. So good job, Florida, on flipping that around, because that was a creepy question to ask and you should be embarrassed. But you fixed it. So point for you. Now, another fun Valentine's Day topic, because this just gets everyone very much in the mood. Okay. Norovirus. Do you know what norovirus is? I have had norovirus. Yum, yum. Most people, I feel like, in the world have probably had norovirus. If you work in healthcare, you tend to get it more often because it goes and you hear about it from the corner of the hospital and there's like whispers. It's like the norovirus is coming back. And you think you're going to like win it. You're going to be fine. You're like, I'm going to conquer it this year. I'm not going to get it. Bam. Out of every hole, ye will spew. Yay. Fun. Happy Valentine's Day. So norovirus, we talked a few weeks ago about how like our RSV, panini flu season is winding down. And as when usually happens, when RSV and the flu, and now I guess the, good old COVID start to wane, norovirus is like, I'm here and I'm ready. Norovirus is the stomach bug where you're barfing and diarrheaing your brains out. Okay. I have had a horrible experience with norovirus before. I passed out, fell down some stairs, and got to be the human who got wheeled into the emergency room kind of against my will. Because I was like, I'm fine. I can fight this at home. And my husband's like, you literally fell down our stairs. After like being non-functional for 2 days. And the people I got to be the human who goes to the front of the ER line because I did not look good. My blood pressure ended up being like 78 over 40 something. Like I was not very conscious. I got a lot of IV fluid. A lot of IV fluid. Apparently I had like no color. I was like slumped over in like a little heap and they were just like, oh, here we go. It's not fun. I hope you never have it. But here's your warning. It's happening. It's occurring. The stomach flu is spreading across the US. This is expected. Okay. You're going to see articles that are like, this is happening. It's normal, my friends. England seems to be having a particularly bad time of it, but this is unfortunately, this is how it goes. Like I said, we see the flu and the RSV come in at the beginning of winter, and then we puke our way out of it like this. So it's happening. Barfing, diarrheaing, all the things. Supportive treatment. That's really all we can do. Okay. Wash your hands like crazy. Okay. That's what you're going to want to do to avoid it. Wipe down knobs, surfaces, maybe like as soon as someone brings it, you hear the whispers in your community. That's just when I usually get the Clorox out and I put it on the center of the island, somewhere in your kitchen. And you just start wiping everything down at the end of the day. If you have small children, you're going to get it. Okay. I have bad news for you. You're going to get it. It's here. Okay. It's here. Here we go. Here's our curve, right? We always see this kind of in like March, end of February. We're creeping up here. We're coming back up. We're on the rise. Just when you think winter's almost over, it's like, here we go. Here we are. Norovirus, often called the stomach bug, is highly contagious. So contagious. Literally, all you have to do is speak about it and you can get it. You get sick within like 12 to 48 hours. So this is fast, right? I have literally contracted norovirus from work and then like was sick by the end of my 12-hour shift because I came in, I had a patient who we didn't know had norovirus. This is the one where I got hospital, like had to be in the ER forever. Patient had norovirus. We didn't know. I was very exposed because it was peds and like just everything everywhere. And I was holding them and it was bad. And I was like, dang it. I wonder if I'm going to go home. And by the end of my shift, I was like, I don't feel good. I don't feel good. Here we are. There we are. Very fast. So you are not safe. Outbreaks, very common. They're in 14 states are reporting that their numbers are starting to climb. Here we go. Here we ride. While the norovirus cases in the US are rising as expected, they are normal, but in England, they're already seeing a dramatic increase of cases. So I don't know what nasty things England is up to, but whatever you're doing over there, stop it. And don't give us any ideas. Laboratory reports of norovirus are 66% higher than the average this time for last year. Major bummer, dude. Major bummer. That might have something to do with we are acting different this year than we are last year, but whatever. Among adults aged 65 and older, norovirus is reaching levels not seen in over a decade. Not ideal. Norovirus is definitely something to be more on the watch for too if you have small humans or older humans, because our smallest humans and our older humans get dehydrated a lot quicker. So we have to be careful of that because that's the big thing you want to watch out for is just being able to replace their fluids, right? Not ideal. If you do have small children who get norovirus, just fill up medicine syringes with like whatever you want to do, Gatorade, Pedialyte, juice, water, something with sugar. I recommend when they're like this sick, just like watered down anything just to get a little like sugar in them and just shoot like 5 milliliters, like in those medicine syringes in their mouth every 5 minutes. It can help keep them out of the hospital. Okay. Can help keep them out. Yeah. Double-ended things. Cause this is out of both at the same time. Right? It's a messy ordeal. I hope you have a lot of towels. Okay. Like I said, if you have small children, there's no hope for you because they are really nasty with their hand hygiene. And then they get it all over your house because they, one, can't control themselves. They don't realize what's happening to them. And all of a sudden they're just like a little volcano everywhere. Absolutely everywhere. But that is my one tip for keeping kids hydrated is the little medicine syringe and just keep shoving it. You can put it in the side of their mouth, shove it towards the back of their mouth. By the time they're screaming at you, that screaming at you forces them to swallow the liquid and it keeps them out of the hospital. So far, my oldest has been hospitalized. She was hospitalized twice with this, her first year of life. I was like, oh, but she had a lot of other stuff going on, but yikes. Yikes. Scott was a medical volunteer. And the next year I was asked why everyone was so crazy about the hand sanitizer. They told me the previous year everyone got norovirus. No, thank you. No, thank you. We don't like it. Natalie's niece just started childcare and hasn't stopped getting sick. Yes, she'll be sick for 2 years and then nothing will ever make her ill again. Okay. That's what happens when you work in peds. 2 years, you're going to be knocked out. And then nothing will ever be able to take you down again until you leave. And then your immune system will remember where it's at. But yeah, daycare, I mean, those kids, when you're in daycare, you're just sick constantly. I remember working at daycare and they were very strict on the hand washing. Yeah, my hands look like crow feet at the end of the day. Yeah. Yes. On children. They're very nasty with their hand hygiene. It doesn't exist. They like put soap. Have you ever like watched children wash their hands? It's experience. Mine, I'm pretty sure just like put soap on their hands and then smear some on the wall and then like I sort of like, then you go in and like scrub their hands together. No. But alcohol, right? Like Lysol. You want to put that out in a public place so you're reminded every night to like wipe down everything as soon as you hear the whispers in your community that this is coming to town. Okay. And then just stock up on the essentials, friends. Pretzels. You're going to want some real boring. You're going to want to just get a ton of towels, just spread them all over. Just layer your whole home with towels and hope for the best. It's going to be fine. You're all going to be fine. We've all survived it. Well, yeah, mostly. Norovirus is pretty survivable. It's just really miserable. It's the first I had norovirus with a toddler, my husband, during a snowstorm in Maryland. That sounds awful. Toddlers are so hard with this type of thing because they just want to be with you when they don't feel good, and they have no knowledge. They can't verbalize what is about to come out of them or where. And then it's out of both ends, and they're like coming to you for help, and no fun. No fun. About the month after we moved into our house last year, mine got it. Both of them. Immediately the carpet's destroyed. Can't get the stains out to save our lives. I was like, our house is 1 month old. This is not how we want to christen it. No. And yes, encourage fluids. We don't care about food when you come to the norovirus, okay? We don't want to do that. Just fluids. That's all we care about. So norovirus, not fun. Not fun at all. All right. Let's have some updates, shall we? On the nursing situation, right, where the people got the fake nursing degrees. So in case you haven't heard of this, the FBI, I think, came down and cracked down on these 3 nursing schools in Florida that are legitimate nursing schools who they decided as their side hustle, they were going to sell extra degrees. They're like, great, these many people actually went through our nursing program. Now there's extra people who aren't going to go through the program. They're just going to pay us money and we're going to give them a degree even though they didn't go here, so they can get their nursing license. 7,000 people that so far they've found that did it. I'm sure there's more. And about a third of them actually passed the NCLEX in order to become nurses. So terrifying. And they found that there were nurses in like all 50 states that had these nursing licenses and they had never gone to nursing school. Brings up a lot of questions about nursing school. If you can pass it, you haven't even been to school, it's fine. But anyway, not great. And some states, it's interesting how states are handling it, right? I am very much more on the crack down on this. Like, this is not okay. You can't be using a nursing license if you didn't go to nursing school. Like, not great. I feel like people should be getting in trouble for this. Many people are much more lenient and they're like, well, they were taken advantage of. They didn't know. I'm like, if you didn't go clinical, if you're like, I feel like, I've seen a lot of like interesting, like, I don't know if they're real, like comments from posts that people have made on social media, and they could be totally fake. I have no idea. That's why I haven't really looked at, like, put them on here, of people where they were like, oh, like, just because you were too dumb not to just pay for a degree, like, doesn't mean I should have to give mine back in. But I don't know if that's legitimate. They paid $17,000 for a registered nurse degree and $10,000 for an LPN degree, right? So I think it's super scammy, and the people themselves who got the degrees should have, like, I don't know, something bad. I feel like something bad should happen to them, but then maybe that's just me being mean. But there's 25 people who, actually were pulling the strings of the whole thing and selling them. They're in jail or they got fined. But it's an interesting to see how the nursing boards have handled this, right? I am on team Delaware. Okay. I went to school in Delaware. I lived in Delaware for a long time. I am here for how Delaware handled this. Delaware came right out and they just annulled 26 nurses' licenses amid degree scam probe. They were like, no, we're not playing. We're not revoking, whatever, like, just redacted. Like, no, you're canceled. Okay. We're canceling your nursing license. Do not pass go. You're done. Delaware Board of Nursing confirmed it has just gotten rid of the nursing licenses of 26 people. It is unclear whether the 26 Delaware nurses who had their license annulled were actively working in direct patient care roles, and if they were, what facilities they were at. So where were they working? Don't know, but they can't do that anymore. They can appeal it if they didn't like that choice. Interestingly, that is not how everyone is handling this, right? That would have been my thought. If I found out you went to one of these schools, it looks like things are fishy. I guess I don't know how they know if they're fishy, but the FBI, they have lots of money. I'm sure they can figure it out. And they canceled it, right? They canceled them. That would be my thought, right? That would be my thought. It's not how everyone's handling it. Georgia, Georgia, Georgia is asking people to surrender. Now, my approach would be like, you committed fraud and you are impersonating a healthcare professional, which is not good. Like, that's at the peak of mean things to do to people, having them trust you with your life, and you're not who you say you are. In my mind, that's bad. I'm with the annulling people. Like, go, yeah, Team Delaware. That's where we are. Team Georgia. Georgia, what are you doing? Georgia asked, excuse me, ma'am. It's come to our attention that you have purchased your nursing license, your nursing degree, instead of actually going and obtaining it. So would you please kindly hand it over next Tuesday? Thank you so much. Love, Peggy. That is Georgia's approach to this. Asked 22 Georgia nurses who have allegedly purchased fraudulent degree documents through a recent undercover scheme have been asked to surrender their license. Oh, the Georgia Board of Nursing sent letters to the nurses January 17th asking them to voluntarily surrender their nursing license within 30 days. How many do you think did? How many do you think got that letter and were like, I'm going to turn this back over? Let's see what happens with this. You're right. You caught me. Here you go. None. None turned it over. As of January 30th, none have given their licenses back. Authorities in Georgia are working with the FBI to gather evidence required to revoke the nurses' licenses that they refused to surrender. I'm here for, let me know. Are you Team Delaware or are you Team Georgia? I'm obviously Team Delaware. I'm like, no, we're not playing. No. What happens if the person doesn't surrender? Then it sounds like they're going to gather evidence and then go in and revoke. So they're just being like, I guess, very polite. I don't know. It seems like this isn't the situation where you can be polite. You'd be like, you are committing fraud. We don't get to be polite. And then they're going to go in and revoke them from them. So then like cancel them and pull a Delaware. But yeah, team revoke immediately. Delaware. Yes. If they refuse, they can appeal it in most of the states. So if you can go back and appeal it and prove, hey, I did all of these different things. I don't know how they would do that. Probably have, you'd have to be able to prove you did clinical at certain places, that you did all these things. Like, here we go. Texas is also pending hearings. Thanks, Adrian. No. So Texas and Georgia are going for the polite route, which is weird. Like, lots of areas to be polite. This is not one of them. No. Tamara said they should get a penalty if you pretend to be a cop, then you get charged with a crime. I agree. Yeah, every one of them has jeopardized patient lives, and I don't know why we're tiptoeing around it. Like, everyone seems to be like, oh, well, I'm sure they didn't mean anything by it. I'm like, no. The schools need to be fined too. The schools are like shut down. I'm pretty sure they are, because all the people who ran them are, all the people who ran the schools were the ones who knew about it and were, magically creating these extra degrees that didn't actually have people that went through them. And they're all in jail. They are all in jail. This is a good point from Adrian. Write your boards of nursing and demand that they annul or suspend now. Yeah, because it's just like watering down, it doesn't look good. You want someone to come out with a strong stance of like, we are not tolerating this. And if you do this, if you try to pretend that you went to school and you didn't, we're going to take it seriously and we're going to come after you and not be like, well, can you please give it back? Please, Brittany, please give the degree, just give the degree back. Okay. And then we'll all call it a good day. No. You can be polite and firm. I think you can be polite and firm and be like, and I know at camp, we don't agree on how this is handled, which is fine. You don't have to agree with me, friends. We can discuss it civilly. Obviously I'm correct, but just kidding. We can have different opinions on it. That's the point of these, is so we can see different opinions. I think you could be polite and firm, and you could politely let them know that what they did was egregious and they don't have a nursing license anymore. Hello, ma'am. I am sorry to hear that you committed a felony and are impersonating a healthcare professional. Therefore, I must revoke your nursing license. Have a day you deserve. Signed, the Board of Nursing. Was that polite enough? Also get on Twitter and hashtag governors. Yeah, shouldn't it be a criminal offense to pretend to be a nurse? It is a criminal offense to, I mean, they are technically here, then it gets weird. To be fair, it does get weird here. They are nurses, right? They are registered nurses. They just obtained, because they passed the NCLEX, they just obtained the nursing license illegally because they didn't have the prerequisite for it, which was going to nursing school. You know, there we go. Revisit this on Friday's chat with Bridget. Does Bridget have a very different opinion? I'd be curious to hear it. Yeah, imagine you're the preceptor. Did you learn anything in nursing school? Yeah. Some of them were already nurses. They were LPNs who then bought their nursing, like their registered nurse license. They were already nurses. I think that's probably most of the people who passed the NCLEX. So they might even know a lot. You know, like I was trained by LPNs who knew way more than me. So it might have been a formality thing where they're like, oh, I'm just going to, do this to get my RN. But I don't know. Calvin, yeah. We were sincerely retro inform you that you better not effing practice as a nurse or you go into a cage. Bye. No, we all went off. Oh, okay. Okay, good. I'll have to go watch hers. If you guys haven't seen, I'll leave a link to her video below. Bridget hosted the panel discussions we usually do on Friday over on her channel while I was traveling. And I am, that is in my queue of like, I don't even know how many YouTube videos of things I need to watch. I'll go watch it. I'll see everyone's anger. So if you want to see a bunch of people apparently get mad about the issue, we'll leave it there. Adrian says, I believe 13 states do not have laws against impersonating a nurse, and some bought their LPN also at one-day schools. Oh, good. Good. So we're just going around this in all ways. That's super great. Super great. Hate that. Hate everything about it. How do you not have laws about that? Okay. This is a huge risk to patients. I agree. And we need the public to get on board to make noise about this. Yeah. Adkemp says, I guess I don't have enough information to say go to jail, go directly to jail, do not pass go, do not collect 200. I look forward to more details coming out. Yeah. And I don't know if like jail is the answer. I don't know. I think it's like I have many thoughts on our corrections system in this country. I don't know, some kind of fine or something though. But then I don't know if people even have the money for like a fine. Like I would certainly put something out there that you may never work in healthcare again. At least have some charges associated with it. Right. So I'm with you. I'm not sure this is immediately to jail. I think I said immediately jail last time. What I meant was, I don't know. I was going to say like mental jail, but just like some kind of punishment. Yes, would be great. I need to call my, yeah, Scott has friends at the California Board of Nursing and ask what they're doing. Yeah, if you can call your Board of Nursing friends and you can ask what they're doing to handle this, they'll probably tell you. Most boards of nursing, they'll be very, I knew the people at my Board of Nursing quite well. I know them well now, my one poor soul who always has to deal with me. Montana Gal says, did they know it's illegal? I wonder if the school told them it wasn't. I think they advertised it as very accelerated and hey, you don't have to do clinical. You don't have to do these things. And that's where the sympathy I've seen comes in from people. A lot of people on the internet where like these people were just taken advantage of. My argument to that is how could you think that like you didn't have to do clinical or class or anything? Like, I don't understand how someone will be like, oh, I just hand you $17,000 and you hand me a nursing certificate, like a nursing degree. Like, come on now. Come on. We're not buying it. We're not buying it. So we can go watch that video. I'll leave it linked down below. We can watch Adrian's. Yeah, I have no grace for these jerks, and that's fair. It's very frustrating when you've worked really hard for something and there's already a lot of like, kind of, it feels like public mistrust of like nursing things. And we're already kind of having a bad time, right? In general, as nurses. And then it feels like this happens then. And you're like, I worked really hard for this. And this is just discrediting my profession. It's ruining trust that patients had, right? Because like nursing is fairly trusted in general by the public. And this is making it, well, like, obviously you're not going to trust someone if you can just pay to get their license, right? It was, so it's, I mean, yeah, I think it's easy to understand why it's very understandable that this is like personal and people are very upset about it, including the public. And you should be mad if you're the public. If you're not a nurse, I hope you're mad about this too. And you also should be raising hell and asking the boards of nursing and everything, what are you doing to make sure this never, ever happens again? They're probably not doing anything because they're probably not doing anything. Okay. We're going to end now on a little bit of good news. It starts as like not good news and seems a little bit like, but it does get better. Okay. Hang in there. It does get better. I promise we'll get there. Kalman says they handed in transcripts with classes on it they knew they never took. See, that's where I'm at. There's no, I didn't know. Exactly. They were targeting people who English might not have been their first language, but still, how would you take the NCLEX, first of all, because the NCLEX is in English. And two, like, I just don't think that's an excuse, right? Exactly. It was one of the toughest experiences I've ever had. Some of the fake nurses worked in peds home health. No, you get jail. Yeah, that does put me wanting to, oh no, I don't like that at all. That they worked in home health in peds. No, you get jail, never hold a professional license again because you can't be trusted. I get that side. I see that side. I wish they could have their license revoked and have them banned from licensing and singing in every other state. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Yeah, maybe they can go to prison and body their organs for early release. Yeah, if you haven't seen our episode we did last week on trading your organs for less jail time, I'll leave that link down below. That's where we, I think, also talked this, where we talked about this. Okay, topic that's going to seem, but does get better. I promise. We're learning, right? So, healthcare is all about learning, and this is something I actually didn't know was a thing until COVID happened. Shocker. But did you know that pulse ox things don't really work if you have more melanin in your skin very well, and they boost the amount. So if you have more melanated skin, if your skin is darker, it gives you bonus points on your pulse ox. So it makes you seem like you have more oxygen than you do, which became a problem with the respiratory virus, where we said, hey, don't come in these doors unless you're below 88. But what if you really were below 88, but the tool we used didn't read it accurately? These people are trying to fix that. So that's interesting. So I didn't even know this actually was a thing. So I thought I would cover what the issue is before we cover the solution. Yeah, not surprised. Once again, we have inherent racism in healthcare. Cool that no one was doing anything about. But I thought I would talk about it because this was like the first time I heard about it. So COVID-19 made pulse oximeters ubiquitous. In case you didn't know what ubiquitous was, because I certainly didn't, ubiquitous means like common, household. So there's our fun word of the day, ubiquitous. Okay, you can say it in conversation, seem very, very fancy. I was like, what? I don't even know what that means. Engineers are fixing this racial bias. So that's cool. We're going to do it. We're going to do it. So here's a fun fact. Not fun, but we can fix it. So it'll hopefully become fun. Pulse oximeters. So a pulse ox is the thing you put on your finger, right? These little thingies, and they tell you how much oxygen you're supposed to have and your heart rate, right? We use these all the time when we're saying, how are you breathing? Because if the number is too low, we say, no, thank you. Here's some oxygen. We'll admit you to the hospital, right? And help fix you. Well, problem if the numbers aren't same all across the board. Okay. Pulse oximeters, the device most commonly used to measure blood oxygen levels, don't work well for patients of color. There's no doubt in my mind that this has led to people not getting care, not getting timely care, or even being sent home or staying inside, sent home to die from COVID-19. said Noah Aboleta, a family physician from the Roots Community Health Center. Aboleta is a co-author of one of several studies that have shown inaccuracies in the device that have led to patients of color not getting timely care. So if you weren't familiar, when you would come into the office during COVID, we would literally put, and I know this because this is what we did in my office, and this is what everyone was doing. You put a pulse on them. And if the number was like above 90, we said, go home. You're fine. Really, if it was above 88, we said, go home. You're fine. Problem if that number is not like a same across the board. So if you have darker pigmented skin, you gain a couple of points, like an average between, I've seen like 1% and 3%, which is a problem if you're on the cusp. And so you're getting sent home. Whereas if you are paler in skin, you're getting hospitalized and getting the treatment. Who do you think is probably maybe going to fare better? There we go. That goes across the board. I mean, we've used pulse oxes in everything forever for all types of things, for like treating regular respiratory devices, pneumonia, everything, right? This is how we usually look at these things. So it makes you rethink a lot of these things of just what are we doing to try to like bridge that gap problem? One group is trying to make it better. A more equitable device or reality is led by Kimani Toussaint, a physicist at Brown University. I thought this was interesting. Toussaint, who's the physicist, said, I assumed someone would have addressed this problem since it's well documented that it is not. Pulse oxes don't work the same for people with different skin tones. Are we surprised? Are we surprised? No. No, we're not. Yes, you would assume that someone would have fixed this problem, but here we are. The inaccuracy of pulse oximeters is not a new problem. As early as 1976, scientists at Hewlett-Packard recognized that a pulse oximeter needed to be calibrated to different skin tones because black skin pigmentation and other absorbers affect the measurement that is not, and the method, it is not capable of making absolute measurements. Two scientists wrote the company journal at the time. Do we calibrate these for different skin tones? No, because we use them for all patients. Okay, and that was 1976. Despite this, the devices eventually made it to pharmacies. So that was before they were maybe super mainstream. They said, you know what, it's fine. Put them out there. I'm sure it's close enough. Hospitals and people's medicine cabinets. It was basically born out of being tested on a white population. So when they had originally developed these, they mostly studied them on people who were white. Didn't think, though, maybe this would be different for other people. And then even when they realized, oh, it's different for other people, they said, I'm sure it's fine. Just put them out. Just put it out there. Who cares? Well, we should probably care, right? They were tested in the 80s and in a time when there was very little diversity in our clinical trials and testing. Problems, we found more discrepancies in the 1990s, but no one was really talking about this. A few papers on racial bias in the pulse oximeters were not reaching the medical textbooks or top-tier journals. So the articles would maybe go to the journals, and they just decided that's not one we feel like publishing. Cool. Not cool. The pulse oximeter that most people use. So this is highlighted in green because it sounded fancy. Okay. That's my, if you're curious about my highlighting method. Orange is general information that we should include. Green is my warning to myself that this is about to get sciencey. Okay. That's where we are. So here we are. We're going to go over how pulse ox works, which is interesting and also sciencey. So green. The pulse oximeter that most people use is a small device that clips onto a person's finger. The device shines two wavelengths of light into a finger. Okay, we're shining two beams. One wavelength is absorbed by oxygenated blood, and the other is absorbed by deoxygenated blood. So there we go. Okay, one is absorbed by one type, one is the other. Then we look at their relative absorption to take a ratio metric. Are all my theory people following me, right? Some of you remember statistics, maybe. Some of us are just going to accept what this says next. And they measure which one gets more absorbed than the other. And they use that in an estimate to see how oxygen saturated is the blood. Okay. Basically it scans, oxygen versus deoxygenated, and it calculates about how much more, which one wins, right? Someone explain it better. The oximeter then calculates, like, I can explain a medical problem with your body, like, great. But if you're like talking about like beams of something going into a finger, I'm like, well, highlighted in green. The oximeter then calculates. So that's fine, right? That's where we are. So what's the problem? Well, the oximeter, it calculates how much, oxygen rich blood is around. That's what we want. But problem, the light is also absorbed by melanin. So it's absorbed by the pigment in skin. Okay. So the less pigment you have, the less it's going to be absorbed. Problem. And because the device was designed and calibrated using lighter skin tones, okay, the melanin in people with darker skin causes the pulse oximeter to overestimate how much oxygenated blood they have. So it gives you an extra few points. It says, hey, your oxygen level is 92, when really it's 88. And that would require hospitalization, but you don't get hospitalized because we say, hey, you're still above 92, you're fine, go home. You don't get the same care as your counterpart who is paler than you and would be hospitalized for the exact same situation. Okay, that's where the problem is. And this is where we go on to underestimate things like how severe your case of COVID-19 is. Problem. So this person said, well, no one is dealing with this, and it's shocking to me. Why not? So they decided they would. Instead of calibrating the same infrared technology on a diverse population, Toussaint is focusing on entirely, he's like, let's just make a better system that doesn't have this bias built into it. Okay, friends. They're trying to, purple was very sciencey. Purple was, this is what we're going to try to do and give us hope. Purple is our color of hope. We're trying to exploit. Also, it means that we don't really need to understand it. We're just going to read it because it sounds fancy. We're trying to exploit the polarization or the electric field properties of light, as one does. Naturally, Toussaint says that we've been exploring it. What we've been exploring is whether or not we can use this differentiate to what we've been exploring is whether or not we can use this to differentiate the deoxy. Okay, we all know the deoxy, right? From the oxyhemoglobin, obviously. Preferably at the same wavelength of light to minimize some of the other challenges going across the light spectrum and having different responses to melanin. Clearly. I mean, very. Makes perfect sense. I'm really glad people like him enjoy physics and know what that sentence means. Toussaint is testing this shoebox-sized prototype in a hospital where a pulmonologist is getting in on the deal. In practice, pulse oximeters are very finicky and thrown off by, which is also true, motion, nail polish, jewelry, and placement. And so they're going to try to come up with a new one. They are putting patients using this oximeter on people who are healthy, or this is what they recommend in the meantime. Okay. So this person is going, to go and try to fix the world and come out with a new pulse oximeter that would work without these other challenges. We say thank you. This other person, so the doctor who originally looked into this, right, said that, okay, now that we're finally taking this seriously, in the meantime, here's what you can do. If you have patients, this really only works outpatient. But if you do happen to work outpatient, or you yourself are someone, if you have more melanin and you're curious about this, if you have access to a pulse ox, check your pulse ox when you are healthy, okay? And get a baseline so you know where you sit, so that you can tell people, like, if, when you're getting sicker, like, hey, but this is my baseline, it sits here. That can at least give you something, this person thinks, of like help for treatment, or like, hey, when I'm really sick, this is where I sit. Like if you are someone with a chronic lung infection, or like pulmonary issues, you could say, when I get really sick, this is my number. So we don't like say, well, you don't get care until you're like even lower. You could be like, no, when I am at my worst, like, I've been hospitalized when my number is 90, because 90 for me really doesn't work that great. Like just being aware of those types of things and taking patients seriously if they tell you, hey, my number is lower. Okay, my number is lower. So that's where we are. Kalman is helping us at the simplest level. It's checking how your red blood, how red your blood is. Problem is brown skin is closer to red than white. So your blood looks redder when looking through brown versus white. That makes sense. I appreciate that explanation. So there we are. So that's what we have. Someone is going to try to fix that. We are grateful. Science is sciencing, and we are learning new things, and we are evolving. We're asking less invasive questions. We're inhaling poop, unfortunately, unless if you're in a hot tub. We are getting super bacteria in our eyeballs. You can die of a broken heart. That's a bummer. Can't fix that for you unless you just, revolt and you're like, no, single for life. And Delaware, we're Team Delaware. Just coming down and like, nope, don't do that. You will not pass. We're not going to do it. So that's where we are. Oh, I thought that was going to be really quick. And here we are an hour and a half later. We went on a few tangents. It's fine. That's why we do these. But yeah, do they still take off patients' nail polish for a pulse ox? Not really. Not really. At least we didn't. Not really. Yeah. Yay, science. Boo, racism. What an eventful evening. I know when you look at it like that, I was like, there's nothing here. But well, look at me to find trouble. I was like, I will find issues in the world. Don't even worry. Can't die of a broken heart if you're heartless. Just saying. Team that. Team night shift. I feel like that would be our slogan on our night shift shirts. Can't die of a broken heart if you're heartless. Oh, love it. You can buy a funny t-shirt to make you feel better if you would like to support Nurse Scott, a frequent of our channel. His link is in the bio. There we have. Oh, thanks. It's been a great one. It's probably been a high point of my day as well. And Tuesdays are always fun. Thanks for being here and hanging out with me. If you do like these, just hit the likey button. It makes me feel better and it makes YouTube feel better. And then they spread it out to the world. I appreciate you being here as I figure out my life crisis of, I don't know what I'm doing with my YouTube channel. I used to help new nurses and now I just rant about all things. But I appreciate you. On Friday, in case you're curious, so I've been gone for 2 Fridays where we usually have our lovely panel discussion with people like Nurse Scott, Mr. Midwife, Nurse Adrian. Because I don't even remember. Went to my parents' house 1 week, and then last week I was in Oklahoma for a business trip. And this Friday, we're going to be discussing when you need to provide medical care outside of a medical setting, because I very much had the dreaded situation on an airplane on my way home, where they were like, hey, are there any medical people on this flight? And you look around and you're like, surely someone else who looks much wiser and more responsible than me is going to stand up any second and go help. And then no one does. You're like, oh God. Okay. So we got to do that. So I'm not going to be sharing patient information, but I will tell you what happens on Friday when you are the human who gets to go up to the front of the plane and have to deal with a actual medical situation. There's interesting things that come out. There's headsets. I got it, the plane pulled over. It was just a very interesting situation. I will share the interesting things that I found interesting, nothing about the patient. And if you have stories that you would like to come share, let us know. We'll be discussing whenever you've had to provide healthcare. I have several stories of when I have had to be that person. The plane is the worst. The plane is the worst. It takes the cake. I've had to do it in other locations. Chad, I think, has stories. Nurse Scott's just going to be really jealous because if you guys don't know, Nurse Scott, all he wants to do in the world was just like go and save the world, like with his little ER, little box, and go save the world. I literally, you guys, as I was walking up the plane, like, cause I'm in the back. The plane, it landed and then it had to like pull over to the side and we had to get off and take the person to the ambulance that was waiting for us right there. But like, so I was just like on this runway with this plane. It was a very surreal situation. Anyway, as I'm walking up the aisle, because of course I'm in the back, right? And I look rough. I don't look like the person, like when I was approaching, they were probably like, this person, like, because I don't look cute when I fly. I don't know if some of you, if some of you look cute. Nick, yes, you're a flight attendant. Email me, and we can have you on if you want to discuss it. Here's my email address. Anyway, I'm walking up and all I could think in that moment was legitimately, I was like, this should be Scott. This should not be me. This should not be me having to deal with this. Someone help me. Um, so there we go. So we'll talk about that. It was certainly an experience I hope to never ever have to repeat. Noise canceling headsets for real. I should have had my headphones in. I got nervous and I was like listening to a podcast and I actually paused the podcast. So I did it to myself because I did have the AirPods in and those do um like the noise canceling thing, but I saw them, they were scurrying, right? And then someone came up and they were going up the aisle and I saw them pull out what was very obviously a huge medical thing, like situation, like including an AED and all the things. And I was like, this isn't happening. Like I had an inkling. I was like, oh no. I was like, there's got to be other people on this plane. There were not that stood up, at least. I'm convinced there had to be others. There were a lot of people on that plane. It was a huge plane, not a little dinky one. There we go. So we'll talk about some interesting things I learned along the way. I think all airlines are probably different because I was like Redditing like crazy afterwards to see this. I immediately texted Scott, Adrian, and Chad, and I was like, guys, I've had an experience. I've had an experience. Yeah. My first thought, is this real? My first thought was literally like someone else. Like it was just someone else would have to be able to be more qualified to me than this. It ended up being, it was very fortunate. I will say that it was what it was because it was scary, but it was something I'm also very comfortable with that I saw a lot as a nurse. So I was like, okay, like of all the things, I guess this is fine. Yeah, I didn't know Air France flew to Oklahoma. Oh, I was also having thoughts of that. I won't lie. In the thing, I was like, we can't have my thing be like, well, did you die? I was like, because this is like happening. Things are happening and I hate it. So if you want to follow that conversation, Friday at 3 p.m., anyone else has stories, let me know. By all means, Nick, if you want to join, I'd be curious to hear your side of it as a flight attendant. And also like, it looks like from my rudimentary internet research that the packs that they have are very, very different. Very, very different. Very, I would have a parachute. I would yeet myself from the situation. Literally. And then I was like, so I don't know. It was everyone wanted to like people were coming up and like talking to me afterwards. And I was like, I'm just like trying to process what just happened. Like I'm mentally debriefing with myself. It was not great. Every flight leaving Las Vegas on a Sunday, it's apparently very common. I did ask the flight attendants. I was like, how often does this like happen? I was a little bit more composed. I was like, how often? Like trying to be cool, calm and collected. Afterwards, I was like, so does this happen like all the time? Because they were very cool, calm and collected. Like crazy things were happening and these people were just like, okay, here we are. Like, this is happening. I was like, does this happen like all the time? Cause like, I'm not okay on the inside. And they were very much, they were very much, they were fine. This has happened all the time, all the time. Did I get a voucher? I don't know. They did ask me what seat I was in. It was a work trip. So if anything, like, I guess my boss would get a free flight. I should have told them, be like, give it to me. But I don't think they did. They collected all of my information so that they could verify that I was who I said I was and the things that I did that I had to swear. I'm going to give the whole video away. I had to like swear that I give like a sworn statement that I was allowed to do, like what I was about to do, that I was who I said I was. It was wild. Something nice will be on its way soon. Oh, that's sweet. Well, it'll go to my boss. I should probably tell her, be like, by the way, on the way home, shenanigans happened. Things occurred. Okay. I had to do things, drive long distances. Yeah. In case of a lawsuit. Oh, for sure. There were also interesting, like they did tell me that, we are really getting into all of it. They did tell me like under the FAA, like I would have immunity from like actions, like someone else was taking, there was someone on the ground that was there kind of like, I don't know if they absorb your responsibility, like what happens. I didn't ask a lot of questions. I did ask if I could get sued or like if what my liability was proceeding. And they were like, oh no, yep, like you will be a-okay as long as you are who you say you are. I wasn't allowed to be a fake nurse practitioner. I had to be a real one. I had to go to real school. So, not like these other fakers out there. Not like them. Yeah, Nick, let us know how many vouchers my boss is getting for my deed. It was a very interesting experience. If you if you say no for services, you can be seen as a payment for your services. There goes your good Samaritan. Yeah. Yeah. Please don't give me that. Please don't hold me accountable for anything that happened here. No, we don't want that. I'm going to wear a fake ankle monitor. Oh, Irene said, I'm always wearing a hat, glasses, and sunglasses like I'm in a witness protection program. I'm just praying that no one will approach me. That is my look. I had like a huge oversized like hoodie on, and then like random like dress boots because I forgot to pack like sneakers because I was doing a bunch of filming stuff. So I had like all sweatpants, I mean like sweatpants and this huge oversized hoodie with my hood like pulled up. But then I have like these dress boots. And I had like put on makeup, but I had rubbed my eyes. And so my eyebrows fell off. Like, cause you like fill in your eyebrows. I didn't today. So I had like my eyebrows that I had rubbed off on accident during the flight because I was so tired. So it was like all down my face. And then I had put on lipstick in the morning. And then I put chapstick on top of the lipstick. And it was like a setting lipstick, like a long staying power lipstick that when you put an oil on top of it, it smears. So I had like red, like dark pink lipstick, like all around it. Cause I'd fallen asleep on the plane and like smacked my lips. When I tell you that the human I approached was probably like, the flight attendants were like, this girl, are you sure? Like, I'm all you got. I'm all you got here. Okay. Meanwhile, Scott's boarding the plane in scrubs with a stethoscope. I flash my license to the flight attendants as I walk by. I try to look exact opposite. That's why I thought of you, Scott, walking up. I was like, no. A literal Nurse Ratchet, like, oh, you can go sit down. Oh, I probably did look like I looked when I got off of the plane. That was when I went to the bathroom after, I was like, oh. Oh boy. Here we go. Anyway, so that's on Friday. If you want to hear a retelling of that with a few other details that I didn't manage to already give away already, at 3 p.m. Be there. If you have fun stories, we'll read them aloud from the chat. And yeah, we'll go from there. All right, friends. Thanks for being here. I appreciate you. I hope you have a great rest of your Valentine's Day. Hope you don't get bacteria in your eye. You don't, inhale poop particles. You don't die of a broken heart. And you, don't have your nursing license taken away from you. But I do hope you email all of your representatives and all your people and ask for swift Delaware justice. Okay. You might have to explain it more. If you just say, I would like swift Delaware justice, they might not know. Heaven forbid they don't watch my channel. Rude. I know, but not everyone does. All right, friends. I appreciate you being here. I hope you have a beautiful rest of your night. And I'll see you next time. Bye. Wait, crap. I forgot. You're more than enough. You, my friends, are not alone. You are more than enough, and you can do all the hard things. I'll leave you with that on Valentine's Day. I won't elaborate further. Have fun. Why can't I work the internet? Outro. Play.